There are many times when you have an STL file that you would like to take into a solid body. And it's a relatively prismatic shape, but you find, especially if you have a personal license, that you don't have the prismatic option in the convert routine. So I want to show you today how to use the mesh section sketch to create a prismatic body even though you may have a personal license and your convert does not have a prismatic option. So let's get started. The first thing we'll do is bring in the mesh or the STL file. Insert mesh, and I'll pick up my model STL file and open. As it comes in, you want to orient it as you want. I'm going to flip mine, and then I want to center it on the origin and also move it to the ground and say OK. Be sure your units are right at this point. Next, I'm going to turn on the origin to check to be sure it's sitting on the origin and everything is right in position. Now the next thing you want to do is take a look at your mesh body and be sure there's no warnings, nothing you need to repair before you get started. Next thing I need to do is take a couple measurements. I need to know the distance from this surface to the XY plane, which is the thickness both of the center post and the outside rim. I also need the thickness from this inside face to the XY plane. So I'm going to use my measure tool, pick on the top surface and the XY plane. I notice 10. I'll go ahead and repeat that measurement from the XY plane up to the inside of this face. It's 3. I need those two dimensions, and you'll see in a second why. I can turn the origin off at this point and go ahead now and go to the Create Mesh Section Sketch. I'm going to pick on this. It asks me to pick the body. I pick on the body, and you'll notice that the plane is going perpendicular to the overall roundness, and I want it going at 90 degrees. Instead of actually rotating it, which I could, I'm going to pick a plane, which I already have on my origin, the XY, and it rotates it for me automatically. Next, I want it right above this top surface, so I'm going to move it up. Notice the arrow. I'm going to move it up 3. This is in metric, so 3.01. A very, very slight bit above that surface. At this point, you can't see the section sketch very well, so you can turn the body off. We don't need it for right now. Next thing you want to do is to go and expand your sketches, and you'll find there's the sketch you just made and there's a section sketch. You want to right click on the sketch and edit sketch. It'll square it up to you, ready to go. Next, go to your create menu and you'll see fit curves to mesh section. There are a lot of commands in this dialog box, but the main ones to pay attention to are the types of entities. There's line, arc, spline, closed spline, circle, and ellipse. We'll use the rest of them as we go along. So what you're going to be basically doing is picking a command for line, for example, and you're going to trace over the lines you need. I'll start with the square in the center. So zoom up and carefully pick on the point and then pick on the next point. As you see, it draws a line between them. It continues on. If you need to stop, hit the X and start over. But I don't need to. I can continue around the model. Be careful and zoom up so you get a perfect on the edge. Now I need to go now to an arc. I need this part of the arc. And it's going to try and put a line between there and the arc, so I'm going to start over. I'm going to pick on arc, and I really just need a partial arc, so I'm just going to pick those 2 points. You'll see in a second why. Next thing I want to do is another line. So I'm going to hit the start over and I'm going to sketch this distance right here. I need it for my model. Next thing I need to do is have a circle. So I start over and pick on circle and pick on this circle right there. Next thing I need is a closed polyline. That's the outside. So that is all the sketches I need from the projected mesh section analysis. So I'll say OK to this command. Now I do need to do some other sketches. So I'm going to turn this part off so the orange disappears, which was the section sketch. And I'm going to put a circle using this as a guide. And I'm going to put a line from this midpoint over to here. You'll see why later. I'll finish my sketch. When you finish using your sketching tools to map out your different lines and entities you need, you'll notice that the mesh section sketch will return. You can turn that off by clicking the little eye. Next thing you're ready to do is a little bit of modeling. So you'll go to the solid modeling environment and you'll pick up on extrude. I'm going to pick up on this sketch and this sketch to go up, remember, 10 millimeters. The sketch disappears, but I can turn it right back on and do another extrude. The center part goes up 3. So we're well on the way to developing our solid body from our mesh environment. I now need to go ahead and add the little gussets in here. So you know, if I drew this line or sketch that line, so I'm going to put an angle plane on that line. Pick on this, comes in at 90 degrees, and that's what I want. I'm going to make a sketch on that, and I'm going to do a slice function. I need to sketch a line from that corner up to this line, and it will not do it unless I have a projected entity. So I'm going to go to my project and pick intersect. Because this is a round object, I'm going to use intersect. It works a lot better. I'm going to use intersect on the body to get everything I need at once and say OK. Next thing I do is I sketch a line. Notice it will snap to it now to there. I don't want to go to that point because I want the dimension down from that point a ½ millimeter. Now we have a fully constrained sketch. We'll finish our sketch and go back. Next thing we'll do is use the rib tool. I pick on the line that I just sketched, and now I'm going to make the thickness 2 millimeters. It's symmetrical and it's going to go to next. If you have trouble with it going the wrong way, just do the flip function. Say OK. Now I'm going to turn my sketch off because I really don't need it at this point. I'm now going to pattern that rib. So I go to pattern, I'll pick circular pattern, I'll pick on a feature, the rib from the timeline, pick on my axis, I'll hold down my left click, I can get the Y directly, and I want 8 of them. And I want them to go ahead and adjust and join. As you can see, we've now almost completed our body. Let's add the finishing touches. The last step I want to do is pretty it up a little bit. I'll use a fillet on this top edge of ½ millimeter. And I'm going to also, in the same command, I'm going to pick these 2 edges. Notice how clean they are from our process, and I'm going to make these 1 millimeter. So our piece is finished, and you got to admit that's pretty slick to go from your STL to a solid body, prismatic body in just a few steps. I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and turn it into a component so I can quickly move it out of the way and then turn the mesh body back on so you can see the radical change you can do. I hope this helped you do better modeling in Fusion 360.